But we're glad to have Coach Chiswick next week, and of course hearing what Houston's going to say here in just a few minutes. Want to remind everybody, it's real simple. Go to lrtouchdown.com, RSVP if you're coming. That really helps us a lot and makes it where you don't have to scramble, and that will help. Remember, still join. It's still not too late for you to help us. $50 for our membership, another $25 extra to join the National Football Foundation, which I think in a year or two, gang, if we add enough members to our National Football Foundation chapter, we'll be one of the biggest in the country. And we just started this year down here in Little Rock, so please do that. If you want to join the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, you can do all three under the Super Sports membership at $125, and that's it. So we appreciate you doing that. Do want to thank our sponsors real quick, Twin City Limousine, 1037 The Buzz, who's broadcasting actually out there right now and had Houston on with Justin Aker a few minutes ago. Thank you to Steve Johnson. Little Rock CVB, David Russell and Gretchen, thank you so much for your sponsorship. We're proud to be the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Metters, Adams, and Lee Insurance. Roberts Lee is representing the firm today. Andrew, where's Roberts at? See here? I think. Robert, so great to have you today, and you made Andrew stay home and or take care of the bills or take out the trash or something. We appreciate that. He's where? He's getting a root canal. He's getting a root canal. I think that's the only thing that keep him away. Robert, thanks for having you here today. Do want to thank Epic Health. You'll see there is as Gary mentioned, there is a flyer here. If you think you may have low testosterone, guys, let them go by and give you a free screening. They're great. They're right around the corner from Chili's, right behind Chili's, and great to have him there this year. And Mike, I know, has a special guest that I'm going to introduce here in just a second. But thank you to Epic Health for sponsoring both the Touchdown Club and the Buzz's appearance out there in the lobby. Do you want to thank Wendy's? Is Nan Trammell here? I know Nan was going to try to make it. She is sponsoring both the Dan Hampton Award. I know, Houston, you were talking about that, the Dan Hampton Award and the Willie Rofe Award, the top offensive lineman and defensive lineman in high school and college football in Arkansas. I've gone to grilled chicken wraps, Rex, as the 50-year mark gets within 20 days. Grilled chicken wraps for me, so go by and eat something at Wendy's. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, I got a chance to go over to their facility and meet with Judy Henry and their staff. Where's Judy at? What an unbelievable facility down at the I guess it's the Bank of America building, 23rd floor. It's outstanding. And we're getting ready to get to work on the Cliff Harris Award, Houston. I mean, it's a mammoth job. It's 500 schools that we have to choose from to pick the top small college player, NAIA, Division II and Division III. So her and her staff are here today, and we appreciate y'all's sponsorship and love your beautiful facilities, top notch. And remember, if you do Twitter, go to WLJ Sports Law if you want to follow them on Twitter. Crane Automotive, I don't know if Drew or Larry are here. There's so many people. I don't know if they're here today or not. There they are, the crew from Crane Automotive. 10 dealerships across the state, including an RV dealership from Sherwood to Jacksonville to Little Rock, North Little Rock, Springdale, Bentonville. They employ over 500 Arkansans. We appreciate their sponsorship here at the Touchdown Club. The Democrat Gazette, 10 years running, they've been with us. And for those of you who don't realize how good a paper we have, I dare you to read the Dallas Morning News or the Memphis Appeal, Commercial Appeal. I'm telling you, the Democrat Gazette is much better, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And of course, 9 years running, our fearless leader of our presenting sponsor, Lunch for Bridges. I was trying to, how many times have you sat next to Houston? I think we've had him 2 or 3 times when he was SEC Coach of the Year here. And
Third time or fourth time with the annual banquet.
The banquet. Lunchford did make a mention today, and I don't know if the embassy has noticed. Have you guys noticed on this side, for some reason the tables are getting smaller up front. I don't know if that means we need
I'm getting
bigger, one or the other. I don't know, Lunchford, but obviously, let's give a round of applause to our great sponsors here today. I do want to thank the folks here at Embassy Suites. Dwayne Duncan, where's Dwayne at? Dwayne, thank you so much for taking all your pictures, and I'm going to introduce one of your special guests here in just a minute. Matt Johnson, remember, right now before you turn off your phone, some people who couldn't be here ask where can they hear. You can actually see if you go to lrtouchdown.com. If you want to see Houston's speech, you're worldwide, Houston. You're on the internet live. So lrtouchdown.com, or if you're out in your car, you can listen to it on the Buzz as well. So thank you, Matt Johnson. Kelly Lassane, who's doing a great job today. This is her all-time, maybe beside the first meeting with Bielema, outstanding job. All of our check-in ladies are outstanding. Matter of fact, Dee Dee Helbig is here today. Where's Dee Dee at? Dee Dee's with Ava Bella Spa, and she has delivered all the massages, the manicure and pedicure. All the girls, ladies, please stand up in the back. Our check-in ladies, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Finally, after 2 years, Dee Dee is going to take real good care of the ladies over at Ava Bella Spa, and they do a great job. Thank you to them. Also, too, if you are a Touchdown Club founder or board member, please stand and let us recognize you at this moment. Please stand if you are a founder or a board member. Don't be embarrassed. Let's give these folks a round of applause. Do you want to introduce a special guest real quick? I know that Houston has a table full of folks over here that he's going to introduce. Heron Hickenbotham is a guy that we're glad to have for the first time at the Touchdown Club. His family name is outstanding in business, and he's one of the most charitable guys involved with the community. Heron, so glad to have you here today. We appreciate you being here. I know Bo Busby has a bunch of players that I know Houston's going to recognize. I did also want to recognize, I know that Mike. Now, Mike, what's the relation? Uncle? Stepfather. I got that wrong. One of the most well-known figures and faces in Arkansas television history. He was inducted to the Arkansas Entertainers Hall of Fame 2007, Lifetime Achievement Award for 50 years of TV service by receiving an Emmy, Arkansas Walk of Fame in 2012, longtime fixture in Little Rock Television. B.J. Sams, everybody. Please stand, B.J. And all the way from Northwest Arkansas, I want to make mention, Riley Duncan, please stand. This is the daughter of Dwayne Duncan. It's how nice that she's came all the way down from Northwest Arkansas to here in Houston today. And our high school player of the week. We want to introduce him now as he comes up. This is our first player, and he's set the bar high. His name is Riley Perkins. He's the junior quarterback over at Arkansas Baptist against Dover 2 weeks ago. Boy, we could have used just a few of these yesterday or 2 days ago. 24 of 32 for 493 yards, 7 touchdowns. Our high school player of the week, Riley Perkins from Arkansas Baptist. Let's give him a Little Rock Touchdown Club welcome. He said Drew Brees is his idol, and he's throwing up Drew Brees kind of numbers. Do want to thank his parents, Mike and Jan Perkins, and Coach Brad Helms for being here. I know Brad has been a regular. And speaking of Brad, I know Kevin Kelly is here. It's always great to have our high school coaches attend our Touchdown Club meeting. I tell you what we're going to do. Hey, Kelly, why don't you text me the name that I need at some point? We're going to let Rex do the weekend wrap-up, and we have a special giveaway from Spectrum Resorts, a 3-day weekend getaway down at the Turquoise Place Towers, 3-bedroom condominium in Orange Beach, Orange Beach, Alabama. I don't want to go to California or New York anymore. I want to stay in the South. Orange Beach, Alabama. We'll give that away here in just a second. But let's welcome Rex Nelson for the weekend recap, everybody.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everybody. Man, what a crowd. What they think, the real Houston Nutt was going to show up or something? Wow. Big crowd, but it's a little bit dead. Coach, we're going to have one of your patented pregame talks to get these folks up. You know, all together, man, one heartbeat. What we got to have today. Hold on to the rope. Tell them, Coach. Can't let go of that rope. Man, who would have guessed a few years back that Arkansas would go 0 for Rutgers over the course of 2 seasons? Who could have guessed we'd have played Rutgers? Who could have guessed David Basil would be calling the Hogs on Times Square? All scary stuff, but that's just what happened. And now the Hogs facing a 4-game streak of Texas A&M, Florida, South Carolina, and Alabama, and then blessedly open date after those 4 games. In the fourth quarter, during which Arkansas's running game had taken over the previous 3 games, Hogs had 3 yards rushing on 6 carries, just 35 total fourth quarter yards. Gary Nova, again, passed Arkansas crazy, 22 of 43, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. In 2 games, we made this guy look like a Heisman Trophy winner. 743 yards, 8 touchdowns passing. In the fourth quarter alone Saturday, he was 7 of 13 for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nova has 4 300-yard passing games in his career. Half of them came against Arkansas. Arkansas does get Rutgers off the schedule, thankfully. get Texas Tech the next 2 years as the replacement. And the Alex Collins, Jonathan Williams streak, 100-yard games, a screeching halt. Collins came in averaging 139 yards a game. He had 63. Williams came in averaging 131 yards a game. He had 25. So enough of that. And Arkansas State, not much better. Actually, they were just awful in a 31-7 loss at Memphis, a game that most people had picked the Red Wolves to win. Already 24-7 Memphis at halftime. Memphis won its first game of the season. They're 1-2. ASU's 2-2 and has to go to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers this week. It was ASU's most lopsided loss in the series against Memphis since '97. 255 yards of offense is all. Adam Kennedy, their quarterback, was sacked 7 times. Memphis, meanwhile, 505 yards of offense, 329 of that on the ground. UCA, though, I'm going to get to a victory here if I keep reaching for an Arkansas school. UCA moves to 2-2 on the season, 17-13 over Missouri State up in Springfield. The second half was scoreless in that game. All the points in the first half, UCA forced Missouri State to punt 6 consecutive times, in fact, in the second half. Just 70 yards of offense for the home team in the second half. Quarterback Winrick Smothers of UCA completes his first 14 passes. He's 21 of 23 passing at halftime. UCA has an open date this week. And then you might want to mark this on your calendar. McNeese State, which is 4-0, comes into Conway on October 5th. That should be quite a game. UAPB, they're 0-4 after a 21-16 loss in Pine Bluff to Alcorn State. Golden Lions had lost another close one, you might remember, by 1 point a week earlier to Alabama State. It's been a tough season. On Saturday, the Lions had a 1st and goal at the Alcorn 7 late and could not score. That would have won the game. However, good news. I got to go to Division II to get it, but good news. Arkansas's Great American Conference teams went 5-0 against teams from Oklahoma on Saturday. See? Something to cheer for. I'm going to start with Ouachita because we've got Ouachita's head basketball coach, Dennis Nutt, here. Right. We've got Ouachita's president, Dr. Rex Horn, here. And I'm also going to start with Ouachita because I write this dadgum thing and I get to go in whatever order I want. So, there. If you want somebody else first, you can do it yourself. Ouachita goes to 2-0. 24-17 victory at East Central Oklahoma. Ouachita, the only college program in the state, by the way, with 5 consecutive winning seasons. Hopefully they're on the way to 6 consecutive. Henderson goes to 3-0, but at least, this was a little bit different. The Reddies had to struggle a bit in a 44-35 victory at Southeastern Oklahoma. They actually trailed in the third quarter, but they will remain in the top 10 nationally. Kevin Rogers, that I talk about every week, 27 of 50 passing, 384 yards, 1 touchdown. Arkansas Tech, 2-1 in the new coach Raymond Monica era after a 49-7 win at Southern Nazarene. Southern Arkansas also 2-1, beat previously undefeated Southwestern Oklahoma down in Magnolia 20-17. And UAM, which you might remember last week I said had ended an 11-game losing streak, now has a 2-game winning streak. Bow Eagles win 22-20 over Northwestern Oklahoma to go to 2-1. So we're not even through September, and there are only 2 undefeated teams in that conference, and that's the 2 Arkadelphia schools, Ouachita and Henderson. Now back to the SEC. LSU goes to 4-0. Gives Gus Malzahn his first loss as head coach at Auburn, 35-21. Jeremy Hill, you remember saw him in handcuffs over the summer. He comes back and he rushes for 184 yards, scores TDs of 49, 10, and 6 yards for LSU. Florida goes to 2-1, 1-0 in conference, 31-17 over Tennessee. But very costly. Quarterback Jeff Driscoll out for the season with a broken leg. Texas A&M goes to 3-1 overall. 42-13 win over SMU. Johnny Manziel stats. 244 yards passing, 1 touchdown, ran for 102 yards, 2 more touchdowns, and Coach Nutt, our most important stat we give every week, 24 autographs signed for $977 this week. Always get that one in there in his stats. Mississippi State, 2-2. After a 62-7 win over Troy, Dak Prescott throws for 233 yards, rushes for 53 more. Missouri goes to 3-0 with a 45-28 win at Indiana. Boy, that just still sounds strange to me. Missouri, Indiana, talking SEC. Vanderbilt 2-2, 24-7 win at Massachusetts. Georgia 2-1, 45-21 over North Texas. I do want to mention Aaron Murray threw for 408 yards, 3 TDs. With those 3 TDs, he becomes only the second SEC quarterback to have 100 or more career scoring passes. He has 102 now. Danny Werfel finished his career with 114 scoring passes when he was at Florida. And number 1 Alabama, 3-0 after a 31-6 win over Colorado State. A.J. McCarron, 20 of 26 passing for 258 yards. All right, this week in the SEC, Ole Miss at Alabama. Anybody like Ole Miss to go in there and stun Alabama?
There
we go.
I'll do
All right,
it.
we got a handful.
I'll do it.
All right, we'll recognize you next week. Remember last week I told that one Auburn guy we'd recognize him. Well, he lost, so he didn't get recognized. Florida at Kentucky. All right, game of the week, LSU at Georgia. How many of you like Georgia to win between the hedges at home? How many of you like LSU to go in the majority? Going with LSU in that game. Should be fun. I mentioned Arkansas State at Missouri, South Carolina at Central Florida, South Alabama at Tennessee, UAB at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M at Arkansas. Anybody going for the home team in a big upset? Arkansas. There we go. All right.
Wow.
We'll recognize you next week also. And remember, credit cards do not work. Mr. Mansell only takes cash for those stats we were talking about. So do take your cash up on the hill on Saturday. All right. Texas A&M at Arkansas. We've also got Southern Nazarene at Harding. And if you want to see 2 games, there's a doubleheader in Arkadelphia. East Central Oklahoma's at Henderson at 3. Southeastern Oklahoma's at Ouachita at 6. So games this weekend in Fayetteville, Searcy, and Arkadelphia. Get out and see a college football game. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Rex. Appreciate that. If some of you didn't know, I did, for Channel 7, I did do I went to the middle of Times Square at 9 o'clock. Actually, it was 10 o'clock, and there were about 5,000 people out there, and my girlfriend did not know I was going to do this, but I had her hold the iPhone up, and I said, just film me doing this if you can, and she didn't know what I was going to do, so I said, it's been 73 years since the Razorbacks have played here in New York City. They beat Fordham in the Bronx back in 1940. So what more appropriate way to welcome the Razorbacks back to New York is to let's call those Hogs. So I start calling the Hogs, and I thought nobody would even pay attention to me. Well, there were about 250 people out front that just stopped and turned around and just looked at me like this. And they were silent. I thought everybody would keep talking, and so I'm going, holy cow, everybody's... And a couple of people behind me did like this. What's that idiot doing over there? So people said I was either stupid or brave, one or the other, but it was actually sort of fun to be able to do that. I just wish we could have got the win. Did want to mention for those of you who listen to my show in the morning with Tommy and Roger, the character, if you will, named Tiger Bait. Where's Kelly at? Where's Kelly? Stand up, Kelly. Kelly had to kick out Tiger Bait today because he did not join the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Give it up to Kelly Lassane. Get those. Come on. Get away, Kelly. I saw you. Don't cross Kelly. That's the biggest. Coach, that's the way you beat LSU right there. You kick them out if they don't pay. Did want to mention the winner of our Spectrum Resorts tailgate getaway, 3-day, 3-bedroom condo weekend stay at the amazing Turquoise Place in Orange Beach, Alabama, between now and December 31st. Coach, you and I have both been down there. It's nice down there at Orange Beach, especially Turquoise Place. Is Gary Taylor. Stand up, Gary. Where's Gary? Let's give him a round of applause for, is Gary here? Is Gary? Uh-oh. You know what? We'll roll it over to next week then. Unless I decide somebody can text me a $20 bill or something in between. I'm excited about having Houston back today. I got a chance to play. When I played for the Razorbacks, I played with Houston's brother, Danny. And, of course, Houston, you were a GA when I was a player. I guess it was in '83. It was the year I redshirted with Coach Holtz. And many remember when I was at Channel 4, I labored loud, much to the chagrin of Orville Henry, that you be named the head coach. And of course, Houston's named the head coach on the day I'm having the Broyles Award. So had to fly up there to Northwest Arkansas for your press conference. You came down, we were part of the Broyles Award that night. It was a really special time and had an unbelievable year in 1998. And, you know, regardless of what anybody says, you brought us a lot of excitement, a lot of great games, a lot of great times. And this is the first time that Houston has been back, I guess, to give a public speech since you left. And so Houston didn't have to do this. I'm so excited. I know he'll recognize his family and his friends. And this is the way I look at it. Listen, I'm from Panama City, Florida, but I'm an Arkansan now. And the way I look at it, if you're an Arkansan, that's good for me. And I know that he did some great things while he was here. Not everything was perfect. But I'm really glad that you decided to come back. And I did want to tell you this also, to tell you what kind of guy he is. You know, we have speakers fees. And Houston could have said, no, I'm not going to charge one. But he said, actually, I tell you what, let's do one, and I want it donated to Benny Fuller. And Benny Fuller is the young man, the deaf school player that's legendary and lost his house, I guess, a couple months ago, and really has nothing to his name now. And so the fee that would have gone to Houston is going to Benny Fuller, and hopefully will help him. So I thought that would be nice. And Rex, Houston, even though you've been gone for 6 years, Rex has not let us forget about you. I can promise you. And so without further ado, let's bring up Jim Rasco for our formal introduction of our special guest.
Houston Dale Nutt is certainly a guest speaker that needs no formal introduction, especially here in his hometown. I feel certain that everyone here in the audience knows just as much about the details of his coaching career as I do. So I'm not going to stand up here and recite the highlights of his 19 years as a head football coach. I feel sure that each of you want to hear more about his experiences while coaching directly from Houston. Therefore, I'm going to leave that part of his career up to him and also leave some time for questions in the audience after he concludes his remarks. Instead of his coaching career, I do want to share some information about his life before he entered the coaching field. Also, not to slight his mother, Imogene, his 3 brothers, and his father, the late Houston Nutt Sr., but there's no way I could talk about each of them and leave any time for Houston, so I won't try to inform you with any details about any of his family members. So let's start in the fall of 1973. On Thanksgiving Day, 10th grader Houston Nutt hits a 42-yard pass for the only touchdown as Little Rock Central defeats Hall High 7-3. This was Central's first victory over Hall in 13 years. At the end of the season, the Arkansas Democrat names Nutt as the Sophomore of the Year for the state of Arkansas. As an 11th grader in 1974, Houston passed for 1,626 yards and 13 touchdowns. Parkview defeated Central 31-21 for the state championship in a battle of 2 undefeated teams. But in that Parkview game, Nutt threw for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns as he hit on 23 of 39 passes. At the end of the season, Nutt was named to the All-Arkansas Super Team as picked by the Associated Press. He topped off his junior year by leading Central to the state overall basketball championships. The Tigers were 27-1 during the regular season. Anybody remember this picture? That's as a senior in 1975. That's the Arkansas Gazette's football preview. Houston Nutt, he brightens the schoolboys' field. Had a lot more hair back then, but I did too. As a senior in 1975, he again passed for over 1,000 yards and led Central to a perfect record of 12-0 and his first state title in 15 years. He repeated as the quarterback on the All-Arkansas Super Team. He was selected to play in the Arkansas High School All-Star Game, and he was selected All-Southern and First-Team All-America by the Scholastic Coach magazine. The recruiting rules were not quite as strict back in 1975 and 76, and Bear Bryant was from Fordyce, and therefore he was a good friend of Houston's dad. The Arkansas Gazette reported that Coach Bryant was in the Nutt family's home on Sunday, February the 1st. That was 2 days before the national signing date of February the 3rd, 1976. Coach Ken Turner, who's here today, where are you, Ken? Right there. All right, Ken can verify these next 2 stories because he just told them to me last Wednesday. Coach Ken Turner was a Razorback assistant at the time, and he told me that he came down from Fayetteville to Little Rock Central to eat lunch with Houston so many times that the lunchroom employees thought that Coach Turner was Houston's uncle. But Houston decided to visit several schools and put off his signing of a letter of intent until basketball season was over. And again, my source is Coach Turner. And I understand that when Houston visited Alabama, Coach and Ms. Bryant had Houston stay in their home. And Ms. Bryant promised Houston that he would be her boy if he came to Alabama to play for the Bears. But on March 16, 1976, the Dallas Morning News announced that Houston Nutt, Arkansas's most sought-after high school football player, has signed a letter of intent to play at the University of Arkansas. The quarterback from Little Rock Central was approached by almost 200 colleges and universities. I honestly didn't know there were 200 colleges and universities that played football back then. As a freshman at Arkansas in 1976, Houston backed up Ron Calcagney early in the season. Then Calcagney was injured in the fourth game of the season. Nutt led the Hogs to a 46-14 victory over TCU. Later in the season, Calcagney was injured again, and Coach Broyles turned to freshman Nutt to start and go all the way against SMU and against Texas Tech. At the end of the season, Broyles retired and brought in Lou Holtz from the New York Jets to take over in 1977. After the football season ended, Nutt, who had been All-State in basketball, joined Eddie Sutton's 1976-77 squad. Houston played 9 conference games and earned his letter as the Hogs had a perfect record of 16-0 in Southwest Conference play and also won the Southwest Conference tournament. The Razorbacks made their first trip to the NCAA tournament in 19 years. In the red-white spring football game on April 16, 1977, Houston passed for 259 yards and 2 touchdowns and appeared to have a good shot to be the Razorback quarterback in the fall. However, Ron Calcagney bounced back from his 76 injuries and became the starter in the fall of 77. As all of you know, Calcagney passed for over 1,100 yards and was unanimous All-Southwest Conference quarterback, leading the Hogs to a record of 11-1 and the famous 31-6 victory over Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. Sophomore Houston Nutt backed up Calcagney. Nutt passed for 3 touchdowns and ran for 2 during the 77 season, and he got to play in the Orange Bowl victory. However, with all-conference Calcagney set to return for his senior season, Houston decided to transfer to his dad's alma mater, Oklahoma State, hoping to play in the OSU offense that featured a place for a quarterback that could pass but wasn't a great runner. In closing, I do want to state that Houston did go on to earn 2 letters in football at OSU and also 1 letter in basketball. To the best of my knowledge, he's the only person to earn letters in football and in basketball in the Southwest Conference and also earned letters in both sports in the Big 8 Conference. He then entered the field of coaching, and all of you know the rest of the story, especially including the fact that he was the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks for 10 seasons. Please welcome home former Little Rock Central Tiger, number 14, Houston Nutt.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you very much. I really want to thank David for inviting me back to speak. I really appreciate that, David, and the work you've done from the Broyles Award to Cliff Harris, Dan Hampton. I know the work and the time you put in. I really appreciate it. Rex. I know that you give impressions. I know that you've missed me because I've been gone a few years, but my name keeps coming up from your tongue. I didn't realize I was such a big fan of yours. So I wanted to thank you for everything you've done, and I'm glad I could contribute to your career. Anyway, thank you very much, Rex. Guys, Little Rock's home. It's nothing like it. Starts with that table right there. Mom, Danny, Dennis, Dickie. Dickie couldn't make it. He's recruiting. And he wanted me to be sure to remind y'all. He's the only coach that took Arkansas State to the NCAA tournament. I told him I would. Dallas is here. Danny's oldest daughter. I'm glad you're here, Dallas. And Rex, I want to clear up one thing now about Danny and one of your impressions. He did not invent the Wildcat. He didn't invent the single wing, but I tell you what he did one day, second day of 2-a-days.
He said, "You want to make this Wildcat go?" I said, "What do you got, Danny?" Put Darren McFadden at the direct snap. He played quarterback in junior high school, a little bit in high school. He runs about 4.3 flat. He can hand it, throw it, has a natural throwing motion. That Wildcat took off from that day, and I appreciated that idea. Danny and I had some free time last couple of years, so we got to go to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, to watch the Ouachita Tigers. I'd give anything if my dad was there. We got there Thursday, took a fifth-seeded team that wasn't supposed to win, and one Thursday, we just packed for one day because we thought we'd be coming back. Stayed Friday, we won. Stayed Saturday, we won. Sunday's the finals. It's the championship. And in walks Dr. Rex Horn. Now, when Dr. Rex Horn walks in Sunday in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, we're getting ready to win. And won a heck of a game, heck of a tournament. But it is a privilege to be here. It all started back Arkansas School for the Deaf. Those were my playgrounds. That's where I really learned about family. I see Jamal Anderson's mom right here, and there's nothing like it because, see, the thing about the deaf school, there's one deaf school in each state. There's one college in the entire United States. So if you could sign, you're in the family. They leave home at age 4. It doesn't matter if you're Native American, African American, white, black, it doesn't make any difference. Because if you could sign, you were in the family. And it taught me about family. It taught me about what real playgrounds were all about. That's where it all started. My dad was the basketball, football, track coach, and bus driver. And I was the guy that handed out the bologna sandwiches. And there was nothing like it. Whether you go to Bauxite, Fordyce, Kingsland, Hazen, I had one job. I knew on the way home that there was be a little cardboard box. And I knew that there was going to be 12 thick bologna sandwiches. And there's always one left for me. That was my reward. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like being a coach's son. And I had the privilege to be around great coaches. The lineage of coaches that I had started in Little Rock, Arkansas. Bill Hogue, Charles Ripley, Bobby Keller was my basketball coach. Pulaski Heights. Woody Jolly was my football coach. Donnie Cox, that's Bernie's brother. Then I went to Little Rock Central that I have so much pride for, and I see Ralph Bradbury right here. He's one of the first high school quarterbacks I got to admire and watched, and I followed him, and I tried to be just like him, especially on Turkey Day. We played Little Rock Hall. Clyde Horton, Bernie Cox, Joe Fred Young. These were men, I mean mentors, that were awesome. Charles Ripley would take a van sometimes on a weekend, and my dad wouldn't let me get in too many vehicles. But if I told him, I said, "Dad, Coach Ripley's coming by, and he's got a van full, and there's room for me. Go." That's the only time he'd really let me go, because he knew that I was going to a gym. He knew that I was going to be around future teammates and great coaches. It was the greatest days of my life, and sometimes I feel sorry for players. I was talking to Heron Hickenbotham last night, and I appreciate the words that he said about my dad. He couldn't wait to go to the deaf school because my dad was going to coach him, and he knew that he was going to get better. And I don't know if y'all know this, but Heron Hickenbotham was that height at age 10. This guy was a giant. And his dad would have to, on our tournaments, he'd have to go out and get his birth certificate because they didn't believe that he was over 6 foot and 10 years of age. But it's the truth. I witnessed it. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And got to play with some great ones growing up. Fred Allen, Almer Lee's here today. I got to play in the summertime with a guy like that had handles. He'd always ask me, "You got a driver's license?" A driver's license? I was 14 years of age. You know I don't have a driver's license? A driver's license to handle the ball, boy. So I learned a lot of things, you know. He used a lot of different adjectives and things. And then I never will forget the very first year at University of Arkansas when he wanted to know where his parking pass was located. Coach Broyles called me in Monday, so I didn't think it'd be too bad because, you know, we won. So I go up to his office and say, hey, Coach, who is the well-dressed black man that is on the sideline with the hat? I said, Coach, it's Alvin Lee. He's the first African-American to ever play basketball at Arkansas. And I kind of grew up with him, and I didn't have enough tickets, so I put him on the sideline. Well, keep him out of the box. He's not a coach. Yes, sir. So, try to get that across to him. But I want to share with you, without boring you, I want to share with you this road that has been so awesome. And my dad was a disciplinarian. I mean, he was tough, guys. It'd be hard. I'd tell my children all the time, it's a good thing that he didn't have daughters. He was so tough, so strict. Let me give you an idea. We go from here to Fordyce on a two-lane highway, 72 miles an hour without a seatbelt, driving along, and, you know, the four boys in the back, and sometimes we would get into it, have a little scuffle. He'd be driving along, 70-something miles an hour, almost to Fordyce. We're getting a little antsy. Boom! 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 And real accurate. And always ask the most important question. You want some more? No, I want any more of that. He didn't know about timeout. He knew about belt out now. And Mom was always the one that kept everything together. She knew when it was Sunday. We'd get in late sometimes from Hope or Tuckerman in the ball game. Little nut pee-wees following my uncles around. And it didn't matter. My dad would say, let's let them boys sleep in the morning now, Imogene. I said, good, we're going to sleep in the morning. And those clothes, she wouldn't say anything. Those clothes would be laid out. We're going to Emmanuel Baptist Church Sunday morning. We're going to go here at W.O. Vault, and it's going to happen. Yep. And she put her foot down. But I want to tell you guys, I had the privilege to be the coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Appreciate a guy like Bo Busby, who was in Wilson Sharp, R.C. Tillman, and Leotis Harris, Dan Hampton, who you just had here. We lived in Wilson Sharp under one roof. I mean, that is camaraderie. There's nothing like it. Ate together, slept together. Even went to the back of Wilson Sharp and just watched the girls just walk by. I mean, it's camaraderie. It's togetherness. That's what we did. And I don't know if y'all know this, but I drove a Cliff Peck Camaro, 1974 Chevrolet. And I had Leotis Harris one weekend. We had an off weekend in the front seat. And I had Dan Hampton in the back seat. That's a load. And coming down old 71, I don't know if you remember this, Leotis, coming down old 71, every time we'd hit a little bump, a hill, it would scrape. And I think, boy, my dad is going to kill me because he didn't miss a beat. But these teammates were something special, and they were awesome, and they showed me the way. But I remember growing up, and what felt so good about being in Wilson Sharp, I remember my uncles coming from Pine Bluff, from Fordyce. It was Uncle Fay, it was Clyde, it was Saturday, and we were going to the Razorback game. And I'd hear Bud Campbell on TV, and across the bottom of the screen, ooh, Big Sue. We knew that it was game day. And going to Little Rock, War Memorial Stadium, I got to go to Minuteman first. We go to Minuteman or Black Angus first, right? Right, brothers? There wasn't nothing like that. Now, we couldn't put cheese on our hamburger. Dad said, no cheese. Dickie ordered cheese on the burger one time and got one of these again. Get cheese at home, boy. I don't know if y'all understand that joke, but they understand what I'm talking about. But we sat in the end zone, and my hero, I could hear him at Minuteman in 61. I wasn't quite old enough, about 4 or 5. They talk about Lance Allworth. Then when I got up about 7 or 8, I knew, about Harry Jones. I knew about John Brittenham, Freddie Marshall, Bobby Crockett. These were my heroes. And I could see them coming down that ramp. Now, most of my buddies were out playing a pickup game, and one day I made a bad decision. I went and joined my buddies for a little pickup game outside of Warmore Stadium, pretty close to the golf course, and it was one of these. Of course, you have to know deaf language, so you might need to interpret. I just playing a pick. Get in the game and watch warm-ups. Watch the quarterback. Watch and learn. He had this disciplined touch. Coached guys like Benny Fuller, who scored 102 points in one game, and I was there. I witnessed it. My dad had this knack of giving time, being able to give time, valuable time that he gave us. And he was an unbelievable teacher. Over 62 years at the Arkansas School for Deaf, my mom and dad combined to teach. I could never understand why my mom, sometimes I'd have to go to her classroom and wait before I could go to the gym, because my dad had 2 classes going. So I'd go in there and sit in. 45 minutes for an 8, 9-year-old is a long time. And she would be going over, the dog jumped over the fence, an English teacher. The dog jumped over. She was going over nouns and verbs. And I'm thinking, one afternoon I said, Mom, how much longer? Another 40 minutes, just be patient. Finally, I made a mistake, says, he's not going to get it. What do you mean? He's not getting it. The dog jumped over the fence. Mommy, he's not going to get it. How many more times are you going to go over that sentence? I may go over 1,000. We may be here all afternoon. He's going to get it. And that's it. It's about teaching. It's about that time. It's about giving. So I want to fast forward to that call in 98 that you were talking about. When I got that call, David, and I was talking to you, and there's 14 candidates, and I didn't know if I was going to get it because my resume wasn't as thick. But I knew nobody wanted this job more than I did. I knew it. And Quinn Grovey and Scott Bull and Jim Lindsay were on that board, and I was trying to talk to them and talk to you. Do I have a chance? I'll come for free. The first year. And then I get that call on 9:43 p.m. that mountain night in Boise, Idaho. And I'll never forget it. Houston, I have good news for you. I want you to come be the coach of the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. Houston, do you hear me? I couldn't talk. And all of a sudden, all the names of all the mentors, all those lineage of coaches and mentors, Ken Turner was the best. Ken Turner was at my high school every single day. Harold Horton. They were relentless. They were unbelievable. Coach Broyles was 6'2". Coach Turner set up a home visit. Mom had a dinner prepared. And I know he was full. And my mom said, would you like another piece of apple pie, Coach Broyles? I would love one. And if you don't mind, give me the recipe so I can take it back to Barbara. Just won them over. And Coach Bryant was awesome. He was there the week before, as you mentioned. And Coach Bryant, of course, is this unbelievable man from Fordyce, Arkansas. And you heard these stories of the poor and how he made it on a wagon and how they sold tomato sandwiches or mayonnaise sandwiches and hauled wood. And he called the day of the visit and said, we're going to be a couple of hours late. He said, so what do? We go out in the backyard on this 8-foot goal, and it's 2-on-2 because I got 3 brothers. And we're going to ball. The ball bounced over the fence, and there he was. Houndstooth hat and the whole bit. Coach Bryant, my mom and dad are in the living room. We're waiting on you for the home visit. Come on in. Finish the game. Coach, we're just playing the best of 3, so I know you don't want to watch my brothers now on this 8-foot goal, so we'll go in. Finish the game. Yes, sir. Goes in and tells my mom and dad, I'm going to have 4 scholarships for them Nutt boys. Won them over pretty quick. But Coach Broyles and Coach Turner were relentless. And they were awesome. And I was from Little Rock, Arkansas. I wanted to be a Razorback. Had the privilege to work for Larry Lacewell. He gave me my first job. I tell you what, I learned a lot in 5 months from Larry Lacewell. Knows a lot of football, a lot of defense. Then Coach Jones got the Oklahoma State job. And he hired me. And I was in a room with Bill Shimmick. Bill Shimmick signed guys like Billy Sims at Oklahoma. He coached guys like Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas. Got to be in that room, Coach Hart Lee Dykes. And it's on and on and on. I got to come back to Arkansas to work for Jack Crow, Joe Kynes. So all this knowledge is gathered up. The one thing about an 18-year-old, though, you can't fool them. You can't be counterfeit. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If I went in a living room and there's a stretch of time right there from about 90 to 96, we did a study. If I signed 25 student athletes, 16 were going to come from a one-parent home, and they didn't have what I had growing up. So we were the dad. Besides their high school coach, we were the next one. And I never will forget walking in that very first team meeting in 1998. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get there. I couldn't wait to sit in there and talk to them. I had that Coach Broyles and Bear Bryant. I had this speech so ready to go. I was ready to just pour my heart to them. And they walked in. They looked good. Chad Abernathy, Russ Brown, Grant Garrett, Anthony Lucas, Clint Sterner, Chris Chakuma, Madre Hill, C.J. McClain, Ryan Hale, David Barrett, Kanoy Kennedy, Ontario Moss, Zach Painter, Quentin Caver, Jamal Harris, every last one of them. I said, Dean Weber, what's wrong with them? What do you mean? Well, they look good. They seem lifeless. Houston, they hadn't won. They don't believe they're going to win. That's a good-looking group. I never will forget, we were walking up the hill, and Anthony Lucas, is the week before the first game, Anthony Lucas said, what we got going, Coach? Got one more thing to do before this kickoff. What is it? Let's just wait. We get in a room like this, and we put that stand up, and we put that shiny Razorback helmet. We didn't have the hog on that red helmet yet. We had it off. We were just practicing. We were grinding. The times that we used to grind when I was with Bo Busby and Gerald Skinner and R.C. Tillman, Leotis Hare, all those guys, we were grinding. We were doing that same tough two-a-days. And then we went in there and put our hand on that helmet, on that Arkansas Razorback helmet. And I cannot tell you what happened that night in words. We're bonded for life. Clint Sterner was so smart, all you had to do is give him a game plan. You overpopulate him at the line of scrimmage, he would check off, and he would check off to Anthony Lucas, and I'd say, yes, do it again, Clint. Do it again, Clint. Those 10 years at Arkansas were some of the best days of my life. But it started with that very first year, that bond of in 1998. Nobody thought we could. That's why I wouldn't get too down on your Hogs. I know you're not feeling good today. I wouldn't get too down on them. This is the kind of week you like. This is the kind of week you love because nobody gives you a chance. You don't know how that ball is going to bounce. I tell Dennis and Dickie all the time, this ball doesn't bounce straight up and down. It bounces different. It's crooked. You never know. Keep going. Well, that third, fourth game, we got through with our conference. We're getting ready to play Alabama in 98. Sean Alexander, it's a good group now. They're coming to Fayetteville. I went to bed that night before the Thursday. Dinah said, what's wrong with you? Hey, it's the first conference game. Just don't want to get embarrassed. I want to please. I don't think no one thinks we can do it. We hit that field, and don't forget about Brandon Burlsworth in that locker room asking everybody, how bad do you want it? He pulled me aside on a Friday, one day getting on the bus, says, don't ever use that word rebuild. We'll do whatever it takes. Go, we're tough. And they were tough. They were tough. We made Alabama quit that day, y'all. Made them quit in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we took off. It's amazing what happens when nobody cares who gets the credit. When so many of our guys were so unselfish, they would go cover a kick, they'd go cover a punt, they'd do whatever it takes. I'm going to tell you something. the celebrated locker rooms. I miss going to Atlanta for championship game. I miss the Cotton Bows. I miss the Capital Ones. But let me tell you what I miss most of all. It's a relationship. It's a relationship like I had with Tim Adams, J.R. Ross, Bo Busby, Mark Miller, Mike Kirkland, Scott Bull. You look up to those guys. It's the relationships of Anthony Lucas, Emmanuel Smith, Michael Snowden. It's the relationship of a Matt Jones. You ever coached Matt Jones? He's one of the funnest guys I ever coached because he stood at 6'6.5" and he's 241 pounds and he ran 4.37. And it always reminds me about the LSU game. He had ice water in his veins. LSU game, we're down 6 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, God, go, and he's riding a bicycle on the back row back there. I said, Matt, a little sense of urgency. We got 1 minute and 21 seconds left. Hurry, hurry. Mayday. You got one timeout. We're going to run a triple vertical stretch the very first play. The deep's probably going to be deep as the deepest. They're probably going to jump on the intermediate, be ready to throw it to the flat, throw it out of bounds. His response, Coach, I got it. And I said to myself, Clint, I wanted to say, I didn't say it in Little Rock that day. I wanted to say to myself, you got it. You're 2 for 13 and you haven't thrown a spiral yet. You're 2 for 13 and the ball's wobbly. They're not even play clock's going down. Come out from a CBS, and the referee forgets to tell me. I said, Matt, hurry. 23, 22. Hurry, Matt. Go. I got it. Real cool. Goes out there, very first play. Richard Smith goes down the sideline, right down the home bench. The corner squats on the intermediate route. He throws a deep. It's a perfect spiral. I can't believe it. Hits him in stride. We cross the 50. I said, Matt, hurry up. Go. I got it. Get to the 50, incomplete, hits one, but last play, Nick Saban, he rushes 3. Don't rush 3 with Matt because he can buy time. He can buy time. He can buy time. He bought time, moved to the left, moved right, moved back to the left, threw it to Birmingham in the deep corner. I can hear Paul Eels now on a replay. It's the only time I really listen to one. I miss Paul Eels when he says, oh my. Ain't nothing like it. And that was a great one. Well, guys, it comes back to this. There's some things I wish I may have done a little bit different. There's some things I wish maybe would have been a little bit different in this area or that area. But I wouldn't trade most of those things for nothing in the world. There are some things that hurt my family. There are some things that hurt me. But it all goes back to the table right here with Mom. You don't hold one grudge. You don't have not 1 ounce of hate in your heart. You've been blessed to be your coach. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Q&A?
Yeah, all day long.
All right, Houston said he'll do some Q&A, so just raise your hand and be loud if you can. Just for a few minutes.
We got all day. Thank y'all. Anybody? Questions? Yes, sir.
As an Arkansas coach, what moment were you the proudest of the players? What game?
Well, that's a great question. Proudest of the players, man. There's so many. There's so many. You know, the first year was so special because of. There's that word again, Ransom. I heard you use that word. So you know. Alabama game, that first game, you know, when nobody gave us a shot, that was great. The Cotton Bowl, you know, the Tennessee the second time. Same score. But I tell you, the Cotton Bowls were good. The Atlanta, the one game that just always irks me the most was Florida. Yeah. We outplayed them. And Urban Meyer will tell you this day. He was the first one across that 50 to say, I lucked out today. And our guys played awfully hard. That game, there's just so many. The overtimes, the longest games in the world. 7 overtime. Ole Miss beating Eli and then Kentucky as well. But there's so many. But there's nothing like beating LSU, Tiger bait. Yes, sir.
First of all, I knew your father, I thought the world of him, because I played baseball, junior deputy and little league baseball.
Thank you.
I think the world of you among the brothers, and Danny, I'm so happy you had a full recovery from your health problems years ago. So happy about that.
Thank you.
Houston, I just wanted to ask you if you could share any personal story about the famous Michael Orr. They made the news out since you coached him and you knew something that wasn't shown in the news.
Yeah. Michael Orr, when we got there, is very similar to the 98 squad. They didn't have any success, and they had little confidence. And Michael Orr, when I first met with him, said, I'm going to the NFL. I said, well, I got the reports here, and you're going to be in the 6th, 7th round of free agent. You need to stay. And it took me a long time to convince him to stay. And so finally he stayed. And then the one thing you love about Michael Orr, at first I thought he was very, very soft. You know, some of the guys that we had, that I've been around, Lee Otis and RC, and these guys were physical. Brandon Burrow, Bobby Williams, physical, tough. Jason Peters. And he didn't have that, and we talked to him really hard about it. Look, this is a tough game now, and you're 6'4.5", and you're 300 pounds, but you've got to play much harder and be more physical. And he really made it. He was voted team captain, and his story is a great story. The Tuohys did an unbelievable job. What they did, adopted him. Y'all know the story. Most of that show's true. This guy was a winner, and he's a great, great person. And I love the way I thought he really developed at the end of the end of the last 4 or 5 games. Really came on. Clark Irwin was there with us, and I think he'd say the same thing. He was really a good leader for us. Yes. Yes.
Repeat the question.
Do I regret?
Suspending Todd Lotterat.
Yeah. Do I regret suspending Todd Lotterat? Yes. Especially after 11 days when the charge was totally dropped. What I got mad about was after the Thursday night, I asked everybody to go to the room. This is the biggest game because we're going to go play Tennessee again in the championship game. And so that was really the first discipline thing we had to do. And we were inside the 30. Clint got us inside the 30 6 times. We could have got 6 field goals. That bothers me a little bit, but we tried to do the right thing. Yes, ma'am.
Coach, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's next for Coach Nutt?
Well, right now I just I get to watch a lot of football, work for CBS, and it is just never know. I hope there's maybe one more place, but I don't know. It has to be right. Hopefully it can. Somebody over here had their hand raised. Bo, I don't know, Bo. I'm hoping maybe one more spot. Doesn't have to be in the SEC. They have a picture of you at the Cotton Bowl. I told Mac Brown, now I want y'all, this is a true story. I told Mac Brown, he got mad at me. Mac and I became good friends. Don and I, the Nike trip takes us on a Nike trip when we're out there. And then we went on 4 trips together, and he said, why did you do that? I said, listen, I grew up a Razorback. Our first competitive foe always was Texas Longhorns. It wasn't about Texas Tech or TCU Horned Frog. It was about Texas. And listen, all your fans left at the Cotton Bowl. All the Arkansas fans were there, and the whole sections were doing this. And I just did that with it. It's not against you. That's what I grew up doing. I mean,
What's the biggest difference when you go into, you got a program that's down or losing, and all of a sudden they get this new coach? It's basically the same players, and it's turned around. What's the difference?
Sometimes they have to hear from somebody different. It doesn't mean that other guy was a bad coach. 98's a great example. I mean, Danny Ford, Harold Horton, they brought some players in there. There's some really good football players. They hadn't had any success, didn't quite believe. The last game they had, when I watched film, there was 30,000 people in the stands in Little Rock. I said, you got to be kidding me. And it's amazing what happens when they just get a little bit of confidence and they start believing. When they start believing, that's when they start achieving. And guys, I got to tell you, when we get on that bus from Embassy Suites right here and we go down West Markham, I really felt that first year from corner to corner, from cafe to cafe, from Fordyce to Jonesboro, from Tuckerman to El Dorado, we were all together. We were all together, one heartbeat. And I want to tell you, it's amazing what happens when they start believing and they go to another level. And I've seen it time and time. It happened at Ole Miss. It's happened at other programs. It's just, and they get a little bit older. Ole Miss has a little bit older. Those guys that were getting their heads beat in my last 2 years, they're juniors now. They starting to, they think they can beat Alabama this week. Jeff Scott, signed him out of Miami, Florida, runs 4.3. Not too big, but boy, his heart's big. And that's what it's about. You got to have big hearts, tough, they believe.
Let me ask you. Today, Lou Holtz is speaking up in Northwest Arkansas, ironically, to their touchdown club. So you share a bond as a former Razorback coach, and Coach Bielema now, you share a bond with him. Just talk about your impressions of Coach Bielema and his chances of being successful at U of A.
Well, he has this philosophy, and it's tough. It's hardball. He wants to be able to run that football. And the thing about what's tough about the world that we're in now, you know, good news, you're in the SEC. Bad news, you're in the SEC. And so what I mean by that, it's the best competition in the world, bar none. They can say what they want, top, bottom, it's the best. And so there's nothing wrong with it. He's been successful everywhere he's been. It'll happen. Now, here's what he's going to need, though. When Clint Sterner could turn around and hand the ball to Madre Hill, Chris Chakuma, you better have an Anthony Lucas out there. You better have somebody out there. You just they'll make you play left-handed. They'll overpopulate that line. These defensive coordinators are good. They'll run blitz you. They'll take what you do best away. But here's what's great. This week, turn it loose. Turn it loose. Pressure is on them Aggies. Let Johnny think about all them yards. And he's exciting to watch. Now, I'll be the first one to turn that TV on. I like watching him. Don't get me wrong. I love watching him. But they come into your place. So your job is you got to be real, real loud. Real loud. More supportive than ever. I know you're hurting. Multiply it times 99 about a coach right now. Brett's hurting. His philosophy can win. He's going to need he's got to have some help now. He's got to have a few more players in there. But hopefully you can still get to a bowl. But your work cut out for you now.
One more question.
How do you see the difference between the style of football he's playing and everybody going to the Oregon?
Yeah. I tell you, more and more as you sit there and watch, I've been around campuses, more and more everybody's into up-tempo, fast break. It really hurts, it puts a bind on the defense. But really what puts a bind on the defense is when you have the 12th man, like a Johnny Manziel, a guy that can have different launching points, a guy that can extend a play. He is the master of improv that can make it happen when things break down. He overcomes coaching. And so, that's true. That's true. And I'm not cutting down Coach Sumlin, does a great job, but you know what I'm talking about. When the left tackle misses his block, he escapes, he extends, and his eyes are downfield. So the defender's got to say, oh, do I cover or do I come tackle? It's a heck of a problem. And so to answer your question, more and more people, exactly, Matt Jones. More and more people are going to up-tempo. You look, Oklahoma State, I went to visit. It's a great example. Oklahoma State, I thought, boy, that's very average looking offensive line, defensive line. They don't ask them to do very much. They run 3 running plays. But the ball is snapped every 11 to 15 seconds. The ball is out there, out here, quick screen. The quick screen's like a running play. But it comes back to the quarterback. You've got to have a trigger man that knows how to distribute and get the ball gone. And it always helps when you have a guy that has legs that can beat you running or throwing. One last one. Got 2 minutes.
As a parent of a former player of yours, I would like to publicly say thank you for the opportunity you gave Chuck Nally to be a radio.
Chuck Nally, awesome. Awesome young man, yes. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
question.
Last one.
Do we keep games in one more?
One more.
2015
Well, I'm from the Rock. I'm from Little Rock. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, but I'm going to tell you how many examples did I bring coming down West Markham to Little Rock. There's nothing like coming on a bus, and I look at Danny with chill bumps and goosebumps. I get it right now with chills. And the cars are lined up all the way past University. And the people were coming out from the golf course to bang on the bus. We were ready to go, weren't we, Danny? We were ready to go. It didn't matter if it was LSU, I don't care who it was, Florida. We were ready to go. I hope you keep it in Little Rock, but I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. Thank y'all.
Houston Nutt, everybody. Thanks, Houston. Dennis, Danny, Miss Nutt, thank y'all for being here. All the former players, thank you for being here. We want the 50-yard line members to line up to get your pictures. Those have first priority. Members of the media that want to get Coach Nutt can get him right after we do our photos. Gene Chiswick next week. Thanks for being here, everybody.